flight takes, yeah, yes.
Good evening, Mr. Jeffrey. Bharat.
Everybody sees the screen.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. So, Jit Saab, we will start our session for the benefit of everybody who joined on time. We don't want them to discourage them. They are the timekeepers and punctuality is appreciated. So,
absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ashok Garlapati speaking to you from state of Kuwait. We welcome you from for the 6th outreach and knowledge transfer session from J&A Bharat HSE Foundation as well as from J&A Global HSE Foundation. This session is going to go for almost 1 hour plus question and answer session will be there. As you see on the screen, there is a link also which you already got in email. You can also share with your friends or colleagues. So before we start, I just would like to give a brief tips for the successful Zoom meeting. Kindly mute your microphone, and whenever you want to speak, you can raise the hands. Switch off your camera for better connectivity. And of course, you can always post your queries, comments, suggestions in the chat box. This meeting is being recorded for the future reference, and who are unable to join after registering, we will be sharing with them. And please register your name, company, designation, phone, email ID in the chat box for future communications by us. And please stay for the ceremony group photo at the end of our session. And you can copy this meeting link and share with your friends as well. So with that, I would like to briefly talk about today's program. Today, our program is going to be in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Particularly in the part 1, it is a general presentation about the introduction of our J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. And most importantly, we'll be talking about the professional development grants for the students as well as for the HSE professionals. This is from the foundation point of view. And in the second part, we'll be talking about the knowledge transfer session, basically for the benefit of the HSE professionals. And today we have taken a topic on an insight into fire and safety hazards in hospitals, risk assessment, mitigation, and transfer. And this is our agenda for the today's outreach session. And we will start with our part 1 of the session. And before that, I would like to introduce our fellow founding trustee of the J&A Bharat HSE Foundation, Mr. Jitu Patel. Before I hand over the floor to him, I just want to give a brief intro about him. We have the people from Rajasthan to the Assam and different parts of India, as well as from the different parts of the world. So we would like to give a brief introduction about him. He's our founding trustee of the J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. Mr. Jitu is an international HSE consultant with 21 years of experience in Saudi Aramco. I'm sure everybody knows, which is Saudi Aramco is the world's largest oil and gas corporation. He has research scientist for 15 years at a major heavy chemical manufacturing company in the UK. And his works have been referred by several people in the world. And he's also serving on such boards and committees internationally. He's a co-founder of many ASSP international chapters along with me around the globe. And he's also the founding trustee of J&A Bharat as well as Global HSE Foundation, which we'll be talking. And he's the first Indian who has been honored in 2011 in Chicago with the highest honor. We call it as the ASSP Fellow of ASSP, which is American Society of Safety Professionals. He was recognized as the father of safety for his outstanding contributions. He also got the US Lifetime Achievement Safety Standout Award in Orlando, US in 2018. And Ms. Jeetu is the author of inspirational memoir. We call it as a autobiography, What We Give. If anybody wants to have a link to this particular book, please leave your name and email ID in the chat box. We'll be sharing that as well. So with that, I would like to request Mr. Jeetu Patel for his opening remarks or the welcome address. Mr. Jeetu.
Thank you, Ashok ji, and namaskar to all on the call. Particularly, I warmly welcome respected honored guests who have really spared their time, come home quickly to join us. That was very gracious of you all. And also warm welcome to our JNA governance body members of JNA Bharat, as well as JNA Global HSE Foundations, and my fellow professional leaders. And if there are any students, I welcome them warmly too. So without wasting my time, on behalf of the foundation, governance, and all the supporters, we welcome you all for this extraordinary topic to learn from today's webinar. So I would like to move forward and request my very dear friend, Ashok ji, who also equally has been honored with the same honor that I was bestowed upon in 2011. He was bestowed upon in 2020. So very proud of him, and everyone knows Ashok ji so well in India, Middle Eastern countries, and globally for his remarkable contributions to HSE profession and for developing countless number of HSE professionals. He has made significant impact worldwide in saving lives and assets. He's a director of BCSP, stand for Board of Certified Safety Professionals, and holding various respectable positions with global HSE professional organizations. He's a founder of many global ASSP chapters with me and the first global regional vice president. He's the past president of ASSP Kuwait chapter and continuing to serve Kuwait chapter as its board advisor. In 2020, as I mentioned to you earlier, he was really proudly bestowed upon with the most prestigious and the highest fellow honor offered by the largest professional organization, ASSP. I'm proud to say that he has received many more global honors and awards of high repute. Ashok ji, please address and give an overview about JNA Bharat, which is also linked with its sister foundation, JNA Global HSE Foundation, please.
Thank you, Jeetu Saab, for a quick introduction, and appreciate your comments. So I'm sure many of you must be wondering, what is this foundation? We know the foundation in the charity, but what is this HSE Foundation? So for those who are just thinking about that, I'll be spending about 10 minutes briefing about this foundation. It's not a new idea. It is already being practiced all around the world. But yes, it is new to India. That much I can say. So as we were introducing, we were just telling about establishing ASSP chapters around the world. Yes, we have done so many works together, around 9 decades of the experience of both of us, and we established ASSP in different parts of the world. As you see from the blue flags, you can see these are the blue flags where we had a direct or indirect footprints in establishing a professional organization, either ASSP or the influence of the BCSP. So that's, we just wanted to give a brief introduction about us, our work around the world. And as you see on the screen, our India is ranking, of course, on the higher side, on the left side, which is related to the global deaths related to industrial accidents. So a lot of work needs to be done in India with respect to the HSE. And on the right side, you see the reported industrial deaths in 2020, particularly after the COVID-19. During the COVID-19 period, we had several accidents, and that is also one of the reasons we are doing so much around the world. Why not we do something to the India? That's the whole inspiration, and we have got so many like-minded people which we'll be introducing them. So we joined together and started this particular Bharat HSE, J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. Just to give a brief background of HSE performance improvement initiatives in India, of course, the government of India has enacted so many regulations, so many laws. So which is one of the important law is the National Policy on Safety, Health and Environment at Workplace. And the purpose is very simple. As you know, every law wants to improve the systems and procedures and programs and to establish a preventive safety and health culture, as well as enhance the well-being of the employees who are working in the industries. This is one of the important purpose of this particular law. And it also recognizes a safe and healthy working environment as a fundamental human right. That's also one of the important thing we need to establish, or we need to encourage the industries to provide that. As per this national policy, the government of India engages and encourages with several national and international organizations in the field of collaboration mechanism or educational awareness, development of the technical standards. Many people retire and take the rest, but Jitu Saab is not like that. He has retired 20 years back, but so much of contributions he is making using the youngsters. And that's what we are trying to do with this J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. We have got so much immense knowledge in the field. We don't want to go into the drain. We want to give it back to the industry. We want to give it back to the younger generation. That's the whole purpose of this particular foundation. And these particular rules and regulations in India also encouraging the international collaboration. So what we want to do is that there are so much good practice around the world. We want to bring back to the India and using this foundation as their platform. That's one of the objectives. And there is another study report I want to highlight here. As per the International Labour Organization, India is having the highest fatal accidents in the industry, occupational injuries. So there is a published report based on the report submitted by the Indian government. And UL safety, I'm sure everybody is aware, United Laboratory Safety Index. They have released a 0 to 100 ranking of countries based on the safety performance of industries. And India stands at 63. And we need to go a long way to make our rank better. And J&A is taking a simple, effort in that process. That's what one of the things we want to do it. And recently, the Parliament also, enacted the law, another law, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2019, because it is a merger of so many laws, and they updated those requirements, and the new law has been introduced in 2019. And as per this particular law, they are encouraging the advisory bodies to the state government as well as the central government. So J&A would like to be one of the advisory body and also encourages the industries to use their corporate social responsible programs for the benefit of the students as well as the professionals, to encourage them to further pursue their studies in HSE field. You may also see on the screen, there are so many organizations like a National Safety Council, ASSP, NEBOSH, IOSH, so many are there existing in India, but all these professional organizations are providing the technical resources, which are, what we would like to do is that we want to provide the financial support also to the students as well as to the HSE professionals, because India needs a lot of support. There are so much of, we know all the shiny things, but there are so many underground things, underlying things are there, which we want to focus on that through this foundation. And with that idea, we started this particular foundation in the year February, registered in February 2022, and we launched this particular foundation on 25th March 2022. We are just 6 months old, I can say. And of course, there were so many dignitaries were there. Mr. Venkatachalam was our chief guest during the launching ceremony. And as I was telling that there are so many professional organizations providing the technical resources. And we wanted to go into one more step of providing financial support to the students as well as the professional organizations. And it is not a membership organization. It is purely a charity-oriented organization to support the HSE profession. We would like to engage with the professional organizations like the Safety Engineers Association. We have a connection, and we want to engage with the corporate organizations. We want to engage with the academic institutions like Professor Ramana. He got connected with the NICMAR. We are trying to engage with them. We also would like to engage with the individuals and philanthropists. I'm going to share you some of the individuals who came forward with the scholarship programs on their grandfather's name. So we'd like to engage with those such guys also. That's one of the objective, how this foundation is going to function. What we are trying to do is that we are just creating a platform. It is not that G2 and Ashok is going to support the financially for the long term. We established a seed fund, but we created a platform and engaging with the so many other people to to come forward and support for the cause. We also developed our mission, vision, and objectives. Our mission is very simple: to support the HSE profession. Our vision is to engage with all these organizations, which I was briefing earlier, to achieve our mission. And objectives are very simple: in advancing the occupational safety and health profession, to support the occupational health, safety and health as a career choice among the students, to inspire and develop leaders in safety, to provide educational and development opportunities, and recognize the individuals. Mr. Bala is our awards and honors chair. He is working on recognizing individuals program and organizations, academic institutions. And also we want to get affiliated with any university or institutions, other local, state, and central government bodies as well. And we also would like to engage with the other foundations having a similar objectives, by signing into the memorandum of understanding. And as I was telling, we already registered as in Hyderabad. And of course, we do have all the government requirements such as a PAN card, operating accounts, and all those things. And we do have 2 programs in place now, 3 programs in place now. One is a professional development grant for the people who are working, but they cannot afford to, go for the higher studies or the, certification programs. We would like to support such working professionals. And also we have the HSE Foundation Industrial Accident Victim Family Support Grant. There are so many accidents happening in India, but because of the poor legal framework or the poor insurance support, people may not get enough financial support. Their family may not get enough financial support. So we would like to support such families also who got industrial accident victims. Basically, we want to support their children for their higher studies and other things. And I was telling about the philanthropists. We are encouraging the philanthropists also. This particular slide which you are seeing is the J&A Keval Shanti Scholarship Program, which is basically supported and financed by one of our governance body member, Dhruti Thakkar from New Jersey, USA. And she is funding this particular scholarship program for the women students in the name of her grandfathers, basically Keval and Shanti. So that's also we launched on 27th of August 2020. Of course, there is a lot of crowded slide it is, but it's as simple as that. This is for the women students who are pursuing for the academic programs in HSE field. They can go to our website and find out more details about our scholarship program. We'll be providing the scholarship throughout academic duration of the program, and more details are available in our website also. And we also invite contributions to work on the objectives and request others to support. Of course, there are so many professionals, they have grown in the profession, but they want to give it back to the profession, but they don't know how to do that. But that's why we are creating this particular platform. So you can go to our website, there is a foundation contribution form, you can just click that and you can do your contribution as well. And it's not only the financial contribution, we also want the knowledge transfer. So if you are interested to take the leadership role or the voluntary load or mentoring role, you're welcome to join with us. There is expression of interest form to support our foundations. So you can just click, fill up that and send back to us. We do have a governance body in place. We have several functional committee chairs who are really supporting our activities and looking forward for more volunteers also. This is our very good governance body we established with the founding trustees as well as the governance body members and the functional committee chairs and the advocates. Advocates in the sense you are so busy, but you want to contribute it, but you don't know how to do that. You cannot spare your time, but you can be an advocate. Means whenever there is a chance or there's an opportunity for the people who are in need of the funds for doing the HSE studies, you can refer to our foundation. Or if any organizations willing to support such cause, you can refer to our foundations. So it's something like advocacy. So that's what I just want to tell you that. So with that, this is about our foundation. But more information is available in our website also. So with that, I just want to go to the part 2. Before I go to the part 2, I would like to invite Mr. Jitu Patel to have any other further sessions. And again, while going to the part 2, I have a few remarks I will tell afterwards. But Mr. Jitu, would you like to share other insights?
Thank you, Ashok ji. It was very heartwarming, the highlights of Foundation's objectives you described. But I would like to stress a point strongly that the Foundation is a charitable organization, as you repeatedly said, and is established to enhance the value of the HSE profession and to help fulfill the dreams of deserving individuals to becoming fine HSE professionals and leaders, who in turn would make Bharat, India, a safe nation and extend humanity to protect people, property, and environment. Today's webinar coincides with the celebrations of the World's Patient Safety Day. Health and safety profession has much to offer to healthcare sector when it comes to sharing best practices adapted to mitigate risks for patient safety. Industries have very proactive approaches for fire and safety, health, infrastructure, and safety management. For example, understanding of hazards of chemicals, their safe use, storage, and transportation are vital for industries to protect employees and the public. These have direct relevance to healthcare industry. Emergency response procedures are of paramount importance to healthcare first responders. They must be aware of potential unsafe conditions, personal protective clothing and equipment requirements, basic knowledge for fire prevention, road safety, and much more, having potential for safety hazards. Healthcare professionals are familiar with the statistics showing thousands of patients die every year. Also, healthcare workers experience much higher rate of non-fatal occupational illness and injury when compared with corporations such as chemical industries, oil and gas, nuclear, information technology, automobile, and aerospace, who conduct their operations safely, demonstrating sustainable practices. These industries implement safety management system having elements like leadership commitment, employee involvement, review and analysis of workplace hazards, training, incident investigations, and human factors, creating a safety culture that is really of paramount importance. Implementation of safety management system, if not done already in hospitals, in other words, healthcare institutions, would enhance patient safety. As recent webinar only about a week ago by CAHO on medication without harm showed that the technology has helped significantly in reducing medication errors that were leading to severe new sicknesses, prolonged hospitalization, severe long-term morbidities, and mortalities of patients by virtue of introducing electronic healthcare records. In short, it is known as EHR entering, helping physicians, nursing staff to catch potential errors in missing drug allergies, wrong patient, wrong medication, wrong dosages, wrong route of administration, drug-to-drug interactions, illegible handwritings of typical physicians' practices, by forcing them to correct and pick safer choices, thereby adding one greater layer in patient safety issues. Therefore, healthcare collaboration with professional organizations such as JNA Bharat Foundation and partners like Ashokji mentioned, a Safety Engineering Association, and the potential partners going to be like Kaho, San Madhur, having first-hand vast industry experience, including safety in healthcare industry, would certainly be the right way to go. So gentlemen, if anyone wishing to pledge, like Ashokji mentioned already, any scholarship or sponsorship support to the foundation, please indicate on the chat box with your name, email, and telephone number. You could also make an announcement if you wish to towards the end of this webinar, and we certainly will follow up with you. Moving on, it is now our honor and privilege to introduce very dear, young and dynamic HSE professional leader, Mr. Adivi Bala Siva Shrikant. You already heard his name from Mr. Ashok. He is an awards and honors chair of the foundation. He is a certified safety professional by BCSP United States. He is also a chartered fellow of IOSH in the United Kingdom. He was awarded with the ASSP's Safety Professional of the Year during year 2020. Region 9, which is the global operations, and also global operations of safety practice specialty, and Kuwait chapter, he also was awarded with the SPY Awards. He is serving SSP at the society level and its Kuwait chapter level for more than 12 years in various executive positions, such as administrator, director, deputy director, and much more. He has presented more than 40 HSE technical papers at international conferences and was recognized as the best speaker. Above all, he worked with his friends initiating Manavta by Friends in Hyderabad during COVID-19, which was a very challenging time in conducting various charitable organization activities in many different states of our magnificent Bharat, India. I would request Bala, who was the administrator, as I mentioned, of global operations of the ASSP, to welcome and introduce our honored guest speaker. Bala, please.
Thank you, Jitu Saab. Thanks a lot for your blessings. And thank you, Ashok Saab and Jitu Saab, for initiating such a wonderful foundation for the benefit of a larger interest of the HSE in India. Today's guest of the session and the speaker is known and recognized as one of the banks of experience and knowledge in risk management and transfer aspects, especially in the insurance sector. I'm very glad and privileged to introduce Sri Ramprasad ji to deliver a talk on an insight into fire and safety hazards in hospitals, its risk assessment, mitigation, and transfer. As a professional colleague, we all know what is the importance of this topic, especially after witnessing a huge number of incidents that happened across various countries in hospital sector. Sri Ramprasad ji is a regional director of Bharat RE Insurance Brokers Private Limited. He's having a more than 3 decades, around 35 years of experience with degree in business administration, postgraduate diploma in management, associate insurance institute India, principal officer, qualified person from the National Insurance Academy of India. He is a co-chairman of subcommittee on safety, fire, risk management and insurance of the AP Chamber of Commerce and Industry Federation Vizag. So I say AP means Andhra Pradesh. He's an executive committee member and chair insurance and risk management at the Global Society HSE Professionals. He's a member of Vizag Harmony Committee, Government of Andhra Pradesh. He's delivering his services as secretary of ISHRE Vizag chapter. To say what is ISHRE? Indian Society of Heating, Refrigerating and Air Conditioning Engineers. He comes with a work experience in various industries, including manufacturing and service industries. He's an expert in commercial requirements of an enterprise with practical experience in commercial practices of an enterprise, export-import process, business processes, liability insurance, and cyber crime insurance, and trade credit, etc. Shriram Prasadji is a risk management professional with advises enterprises on risk management and risk transfers through insurance and in designing a proper insurance program. He's a regular speaker on risk management, safety, and insurance across various trade and industry bodies. Shriram Prasadji handled many large claims running into a few crores of Indian rupees, as well as a small claims involving few thousands. We all can understand what is the bracket of such handling of such claims. He's an expert in claims management. Shriram Prasadji, having worked in various industries for more than 3 decades, he is able to bring the synergy between industry needs and the insurance program of enterprises. He's also currently a chair of partnership and synergy of J&A Bharat HSE Foundation. We are very, very glad to welcome Shriram Prasadji. Ram Prasadji, over to you. Thank you.
Very good evening, namaste. We are all from various time zones. Therefore, the namaste would be the most appropriate. I am humbled by the introduction given by you, Bala. And of course, Jitu Saab and Ashok ji are both into such a great service to the humanity. I have nothing much to say. Therefore, I will straight away jump into the subject of discussion and presentation. Now, we in India, normally if there's a power cut, the power goes off to your home, we go to the neighbor's house and see if they have the power. We do not look at our house if the fuse is blown out. The next complacency that being an Indian, I have that empathy with it. We feel that nothing will happen to us. It's only the neighbor's house who will have a flood or somebody else who will have a problem, not us. Unfortunately, the reality of my 35, 40 years of experience has taught me something different. And therefore, without talking much about it, I will go into my presentation. I'm sure that it would be helpful and useful. And as Ashok ji said, we will be sharing the recording of this meeting. And we would encourage you to share it with your friends and colleagues, non-doctors sitting here in this meeting. But the fact is, you will see a slide of mine a little later. But any of the activity that a business or an enterprise does has a direct bearing into what I'm going to speak further. Now, I'm going to share my presentation and take it further. I do hope that this is visible. Ashokji?
Yes, it's visible. Yeah. Put on the full screen.
The opening screen is, of course, about, sir?
Put on the full screen, yeah. Full slideshow.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a brief on the introduction about me. And we don't claim any copyright. It is freely available. It's an academic session. Therefore, feel free to share it with anybody. Now, what do we expect from this presentation? Therefore, our Donald Duck is saying he's in a thought what to expect. So the risk management process, general data on hospital accidents, hazards in hospitals, costs of fire accidents, and the key subject of mitigation. And as a risk management professional, I'm going to give an overview And finally, my favorite subject, the specialization that I have done is risk transfer. Essentially, risk management process begins with a risk plan, identification, assess the risk, evaluate, review, implement, and control. Now, this process of risk management is applicable across the board to any type, just not hospitals, across any industry, as the experts here in this meeting will agree with me. Now, the risk perceptions and the other factors in hospitals. Fire to buildings and equipments, which is a physical risk. Equipments and device failures, which is mechanical in nature. Health and safety doesn't need any explanation. Legal liability or professional indemnity. Clinical trials, which is more of an R&D effort. Safety hazards, biological, physical. I would not want to go through, read the whole slide because it's already there in front of you. I believe you would have gone through this. Therefore, I'll move on to the next slide. Now, this data shares about the number of, a brief, it is not the full data nevertheless, but just a bird's eye view of what has happened across the years. I have been able to garner the data backed up with adequate support in terms of accidents that happen. If you look at the right-hand side of my side, cause, short circuit, faulty electric wiring, short circuit, fire in his unit, short circuit. And the last which happened, and this is not 2015, the one in Sishubavan Katak is not the first one, nor is the last one, and there have been many more which I have not put it across here, just to give you an idea as to what was happening. Now going to the next slide. If you look at it, again some further data, non-functional short circuiting, water heater inside the recovery area, the second floor of a hospital in Noida, Apollo Hospital is Bhubaneswar, fifth floor battery room ICU is present besides, short circuit, again short circuit, functional, but still there were casualties in Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. Fire tenders came in the case of the ESC hospital in Uttar Pradesh. Therefore, this would give you the idea of what is really going around in the hospital side. Now, quickly moving across to the common causes. I'm not sure how many doctors are here, but I am sure there are a large number of safety professionals here in this room, in this meeting. Therefore, the fire is something which is inevitable. It happens. Fuels, ignition, oxidants. Oxygen, nitrous oxide, the electrical side, which is again the ignition, and the fuels. There should be something that has to trigger it. And one of the things that happens in a hospital is that it's an oxygen rich, nitrous oxide rich. Therefore, the trigger is very easy. Some things which the safety experts feel that cannot happen because they say, no, it's not combustible, or not so easily combustible is something which does not apply to a hospital. Therefore, that is the common cause, which I said. Moving on, again inside the hospital, patient dependent. I have tried to identify the solutions. Patient dependent is hair, tissue, gastrointestinal content. Incidentally, the human body is a huge chemical factory. I will leave it at that. I'm not the authority to comment on that. Patient independent solutions, alcohol-based steroids, skin preparations, wound closure, benzene, nastrazole, degreasers, acetone and ether. Therefore, whilst the earlier thing was gastrointestinal content in terms of a chemical factor within the human body, these are patient independent solutions, which is very common across a hospital. Paraffin and wax, these things you will be able to connect. Then again, materials, drapes, protective equipment, dressing, gauze, sponges, endotracheal tubes, so on and so forth. Again, in terms of the equipment. As I mentioned earlier, I preempted, common fuels in the operating room of nearly all materials, even those marked inflammable, non-inflammable, can become inflammable when the oxygen content is elevated or when the environment is oxygen rich. Now, having gone through a lot of paperwork on this, most hospital fires generally originate from three distinct sources. Inflammable liquids such as alcohol containing solutions, the prepping solutions, and other volatile chemicals. I am actually expanding on the previous slide for the sake of clarity because we have a mixed audience here in this session today. Other chemicals is the ether, acetone, which are used in the operating room and which become even more fireproof in the presence of oxygen and nitrous oxide. A small spark here and there that originates in the equipment operating near the zone of application to patients can trigger such an incident. Electricity. Now, if you examine or if you read, as and when you find, if you look at the accidents that have been happening or the cause of trigger, so many root cause analysis reports have brought out these conditions, wherein electricity was identified as the most common cause of fire, supported by an oxygen-rich and nitrous oxide-rich environment. In terms of the other things which I mentioned, in terms of either the drapes or the sheets or the other factors that were there. So earthing problem, absence of earth linkage circuit breakers, capacity of the circuit breakers to absorb a certain surge in the power and the fluctuations, the conductors and cables. How many times do we see, not only at home, in terms of cost cutting, people try to put joints for the wires, again cutting and connecting with insulation tapes, which I believe is not the right way to do it. And we have further explanation, worn or damaged appliances. Now, when I say worn or damaged appliances, I had an incident about a fortnight ago at my home. The morning when I woke up, I found there was a gas smell in my room. And having been sensitized to this, the first thing I did was to check if my cylinders were closed. It was. And when I tried to switch on the cylinder and make my coffee, I found that the inlet has been worn out, which I have not noticed. Luckily, I was able, being sensitized, I was able to find out that. But when you come to the workplace, it could be any industry, just not necessarily hospitals. Worn out and damaged appliances or the connectors. So that is something, insulation, I think I mentioned it there. Therefore, these are some of the common, electricity is the most common, and these are the triggers that happen over there. Going further, oxidizer in a hospital across the board is a major cause. Fire gases, smoke, light, everything leads to an oxidation. And given that it is very rich in oxygen, very rich in other chemicals, inflammable, the so-called inflammable chemicals which are otherwise treated as inflammable tend to become very flammable inside a hospital environment. So this slide explains briefly about that. Now I will run through a few examples. 10 people killed after a fire broke out. We have any number of incidents day in and day out. As I mentioned earlier, the incubator collapse in Punjab, the one in Bhubaneswar. The latest one is this COVID, which made life very miserable across the stream, across the world. 10 people killed after a fire broke out at a private COVID hospital in Bandu. So as many as 76 COVID patients were admitted to hospitals, which is located on the third floor of a mall. Now, this is again a flag which I will raise. How can a hospital function from a mall? That the powers that we gave it the permission to operate is a different story, but we would have to be aware that these things can happen. The second incident that happened is leak in the oxygen tank of a COVID hospital, killed at least 22 people. This was again during the peak of the COVID period. And the data here below in the text file is explaining 24 fire accidents in hospitals since August 2021 have killed 93 people, mostly COVID. Well, there were reasons. Justifications would have been given. Nevertheless, high patient load, arrangements of the pandemics have stressed the hospital system, making it very vulnerable to fire. But this is again a part of the root cause analysis, and I would say, as a risk management and safety professional, and my colleagues would agree that two wrongs don't make a right. Whatever be the pressure, certain steps should have been taken. And the roles of hospitals during this COVID period is something which is not the right forum to speak about. Therefore, I will leave it at that at this point in juncture and stick to my own topic of presentation. Hospital base in Hyderabad kills infant, leaves 4 injured. I have picked out this saying that there was no fire safety equipment was in place. Old apathy. What happens, unfortunately, is that after every accident, there is a lot of focus, and the moment it is off the headlines, neither the society at large, nor the hospital concerned, nor the government in power cares anything about any of these things. This incident happened to a child, a 4-month-old child, who was being treated for pneumonia in a neonatal intensive care facility. And 4 other children sustained injuries after a massive fire breakout in a hospital in Hyderabad. Reason: short circuit inside a refrigerator at the children's hospital. Now, where does this lead us to? It leads us to safety strategy. So what do? Incident tracking, incident risk assessment, which is something which I do. Employee training, which I am going to speak further. Action item tracking and work site inspection. Employee qualification. There were 2 incidents which I mentioned a little earlier. One, if the power goes out, we look at the neighbor, not at our own house. And awareness and consciousness about what is happening is something which I gave a personal example of my own gas pipe leaking, home cylinder leaking at my own house. Therefore, action item work site inspection. What I did was a technical way of putting work site inspection. I think these are things which a lot of us adopt at our own home and at our workplace, and these things have to be implemented, adopted at the work spot also, especially those who are in such high-risk areas like a hospital or a petroleum industry or any industry for that fact. Now, I am sharing a few experiences which I have come across very practically during the course of my 4 decades of experience. I have come across losses where the proper protection is available, but the people are not trained to operate that system. Water was not available for firefighting. To obtain a fire license, hospitals, commercial establishments, fill up the structural facilities in terms of water tank and so on and so forth. So the water was not available for firefighting purposes through the hydrants and sprinkler or high velocity water spray systems. And very shockingly, most of the workers are even not aware as to how to operate a fire extinguisher in case of fire. I would very humbly request the experts here to take the note of these things and go back to your own organization and see how many of your colleagues are trained to operate a fire extinguisher. In control rooms, fire protection like smoke heated is operating manual in place. But once again, the people working there are not trained or even how to react in an emergency. A very stupid and silly incident. People believe in this facade and decorations. Any industrial establishment, just not a hospital, they create a wide, when the entrance to the hospital or to this infrastructure or to the facility, comes with so much of decorations and facades, but unfortunately, it has not made a provision for a fire tender, a fire tender to enter into the premises. And believe me, I have seen some of the hospitals or some of the industrial establishments where they had to break the civil structure for a fire tender to enter the premises. These are all some things which, when I make the statement, I am also involved in when my introduction was done. It was mentioned that I am a secretary of HSE, Indian Society for Heating and Refrigeration, which is essentially focused into HVAC. Now, HVAC profession involves a lot of architects. I would blame the architect who was involved in this and say that he did not plan for a fire tender to enter into the premises. This can happen anywhere, not just a hospital, not just a manufacturing premise. So the synergy and the coordination between safety, HVAC, and risk management professions is very large, which in many cases I believe is being treated in isolation. Having said that, failing to be proactive now is going to come the tough part, where I did not want to make a presentation which would be very smooth, very easy, sweet sounding. Therefore, someone like me has to take the initiative to be a little tough on the audience and make them think as to what's going wrong. We all feel that life is lost. J&A is so concerned about life, history. All of us are concerned about human life. But where are we going wrong? I think the time is for us to introspect, failing to be proactive when it comes to managing work safety. It can be very easy to fall into a habit of repeat. Now, Peter Drucker, a management expert, had made a statement about 30, 40 years ago, saying that the knowledge that is acquired, unless it is used on a daily basis, on a regular basis, tends to accumulate rust. Therefore, the habit of being reactive and repetitive rather than proactive is something which is going to cause a problem at some time. Lack of effective communication. Yes. Communication is something. The organization where I work, we have a founder mentor whose name I will not mention, who always lays emphasis on communication. Whatever we do, communicate. The communication starts at the top and it has to go to the bottommost level. Communication was the most essential components for human interaction. And I am sure Jitu Saab or Ashok ji, who come with 90 years of experience, would agree with me, saying that it has played a very crucial role in creating and maintaining a friendly and comfortable workplace. Proper training and educating. There are some organizations who lay a lot of emphasis on this, especially the MNCs, but a smaller organization, a smaller hospital, a smaller enterprise is not laying the required concentration or efforts in training and educating the staff. I have seen airlines do it. I have seen petroleum plants do it, that on a regular basis there is a training, reorientation as they call it. Fatigue. Fatigue is again, now when you look at an airline operation, they have what is known as FDTL, flight duty timing limitation. Nothing beyond 8 hours. And the agencies, the regulators adopt or follow this very strictly. But when you move to the manufacturing sector, the earlier slide when I mentioned about the hospital, doctors, staff nurses, the assistants, they were all in fatigue during the COVID period. Whilst it is very comfortable to criticize them, fatigue was also responsible for a lot of lacuna, failure in safety. So it becomes a duty of enterprises to ensure that there is no fatigue, continuing overtime, 12 hours, 14 hours. I think these things have a very key impact on the safety and health of an organization. Now, here comes the hard top, poor governance and tone at the top. Failure number one. These are the risk management failures and these are things which I have faced, I have come across, and therefore sharing my experience with this august audience over here. Poor governance and tone at the top. Inability to implement risk and enterprise risk management, ERMs. Non-existent, ineffective or inefficient risk assessment. I make this statement when every time there's an accident in my insurance industry, I am asked to do a root cause analysis. Whilst I personally believe it's post-mortem, but whether done or not done, there is no our own initiative. Enterprises lack that initiative, and it is across the board, just not the hospitals. For a non-existent, ineffective risk inefficient risk assessment, herd mentality, misunderstanding that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it is a mindset. Accepting a lack of transparency in high-risk areas, not integrating risk management, strategy setting, and safety as well as performance management. Ignoring the dysfunctional ties and blind spots of the organization's culture. And the ninth point, the final point, is something very critical because everything costs money. Unless as HSE professionals, as safety professionals, we don't involve the board, sensitize them in a very timely manner, this is going to be very expensive in terms of not only the human loss of human lives, but also for the infrastructure of the enterprise. It could be a hospital, it could be a factory, it could be anything. And most important of all, sound and robust insurance program. The other area, I have moved on from the physical and the risk management side to negligence in India. Probably a couple of slides. Medical negligence in India is a real thing. Unlike those in countries like US or Kuwait or anywhere else, for the fact, this is one area where India has a lot of things to go forward. In order to connect with you all, I would like to mention this incident. Steveland Hardway Morris, who is also better known as Stevie Wonder. I just can't say I love you. So many songs that we have heard of him. A blind singer. So there was a medical negligence case in his case when there was too much of oxygen in the incubator that he was placed, which caused him to go blind. Stevie Wonder, of course, most of you will know who he is and what kind of music he gave us. Incidentally, a fan of him. In March, the doctors left a needle in the head of a 6-year-old in Mathura after he went to head surgery. It was left the needle and the family alleged negligence. We would have heard of Chandrasekhar, one of the top table tennis players in India, who had a medical negligence and sued them and got some compensation. The famous actress Sridevi, her mother, the doctors amputated the left leg instead of the right leg. There was a medical history, case of negligence. These are cases that come very known publicly. Doctors at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences did a dialysis for a woman from Bihar. It was later found that she had no kidney-related issue, yet the doctors did her dialysis. Now, to give a brief, recap of what I have spoken so far. I have spoken about incidents. I have spoken about risks that are associated directly with the hospital in terms of the oxygen-rich, nitroxide-rich triggers. I have spoken about negligence. I have spoken about risk management in hospitals. The very important subject that I'm going to come is Murphy's Law. I'm a very firm believer. You might have the best of practices. Before somebody asks, I am preempting now, let me put it that way. I am preempting it by saying that I am a very firm believer in Murphy's Law. If something has to go wrong, it will jolly well go wrong. There's nothing that anybody can do about it. Therefore, what do we do at this stage? Risk management. So what I talk about, I need an effective, I would recommend an effective risk management system where I identify, analyze, assess, control, reduce, and if nothing else happens, because there is a general feeling that insurance is very expensive. If nothing else happens, I will arrange to transfer the risk to somebody. So what is risk transfer? Risk transfer is a term used in industry to define the concept of risk management, which means the transfer of risk precisely for a future risk. It is not for the current risk. From a person or a being, individual or corporate, to another person. Now, who is the other person who is going to accept your risk? You are prepared to pay. You have identified that you have risk. You are willing to transfer it because you feel that you cannot afford the loss that can happen out of risk. So the next best thing is to find an insurance company who will be willing to accept your risk for a premium, which is the consideration for accepting the risk. Now, that is a brief explanation on what is risk transfer. Insurance support in the medical establishments. You have the property and the physical assets in terms of the building, the equipments, the beds, the stocks and consumables. So these can be covered under a standard fire policy, standard fire and special perils policy as they term it. And expanding further on the equipments, you could have the machinery breakdown, failure of expensive equipments in terms of your DJ sets, your pumps and motors, jockey pumps, hydrants, so on and so forth. Every hospital, most hospitals have a certain amount of electronic equipments which tend to break down. While some of them can be, we have this arrangement today where the medical equipment suppliers themselves insure them and provide them on a lease and carry forward arrangement for a couple of years. If such a facility is available in the hospitals, it's fine. Otherwise, the point is that you must have some kind of a backup, some kind of a risk transfer mechanism to ensure that your property and the physical assets stand insured to meet the condition of Murphy's law that if something has to go wrong, it will go wrong and it will happen at the most unexpected places and time. One of the most serious areas for hospitals is the liability insurances where professional negligence, like I mentioned a few examples, errors and omissions, arising out of the breach of professional duty, a negligent act. It need not be a willful act, it could be a negligent act, error or omission of the insured, whilst conducting or in the course of his professional discharge of duties. There are a large number of hospitals that conduct clinical trials, both recorded and unrecorded. Whilst unrecorded clinical trials or CRO is something which is not looked upon, is not welcome, there can be problems. But those who are certified to run these clinical trials or a CRO have to have an extension in their own insurance policies for CRO. Third-party liability claims arising out of death and bodily injury. Now here we have two scenarios. Third-party liability claims arising, again connected back to the negligence, death, bodily injury of guest visitors. There was a case in a hospital called Wellington Hospital in Chennai, roughly about 20 years ago. It was actually those days 5-star hospital where all the embassies and diplomats used to attend. One of these diplomats' wife slipped on the flooring in the hospital and had a major fracture. They sued the hospital for medical negligence, saying that you had not put up warning signs that the floor is wet. Eventually, the hospital closed. The second part of this, when there is a death, hospitals would have faced a violent situation. If you have a very good fire policy, then riot strikes and malicious damage is covered under the physical damage to the property arising out of a death of somebody and thereby the public at large indulge in violence. Just keep that in mind. So key takeaways, the risk and threats in a hospital are much more complicated and real. No joke about it, no, nothing to be this one taken lightly. Hospitals and institutions, industries must put into place a sound risk management system, a periodic audit and mock drills, not just to satisfy a government agency, but for our own safety needs to be done. Periodic checks on your jockey pumps, your hydrants, your motors has to be done. For your own sake, don't worry about a government. Don't worry about an authority. Do it for yourself. Do it in the interest of the common man and the safety of the public. Make life safe for people. Make safety a habit and as a SOP, standard operating procedure. Have a good and responsive insurance program because Murphy's Law will trigger at any time. And never have a complacent feeling that you know everything. You could be the top man, you could be the investor, everything. But there are experts from the respective fields, be it fire, safety, insurance, maintenance, whatever it is. And last but not the least, sensitize the organization, right from the last employee at the bottommost ladder to the MD or the CEO of the organization or the institution or the hospital on safety. It is everyone's responsibility, not just one man. A small cartoon to make it lighter, because I think I have spoken very seriously. Serious subject, nevertheless. Your medical problems are more complicated than I thought. Therefore, I'm going to refer you to another doctor who has more medical insurance than I have. Professional indemnity. Thank you so much. I am done. I am now open for questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, RPG, for the wonderful explanation on the hospital-related hazards and risk management, assessment, as well as the risk transfer through insurance. So the floor is open. You can always raise your hand and you can ask the question. Before anybody asks the question, I just want to ask RPG that
Sir.
We have so many accidents occurring in the hospitals, whether this insurance sector has come out with any customized insurance packages to them, so that I don't know whether they are all hospitals are really insured, but is there any effort by the insurance companies to engage or entertain or encourage hospital industry to go for the risk transfer, RPG?
Yes, a very good question, Ashokji. There are essentially two things that happen. One, hospitals do have a package policy which takes care of the fire accidents and related affairs, the breakdown insurance, and most importantly, the liability side.
Okay.
Package policies are available across the board to take care of these issues. The other thing is that the Indian Medical Council or the Medical Association of India are also giving certain insurances to their doctors in the individual capacity. But the one thing that I always keep telling my friends or when I meet industry people, liability insurance is two distinct things. One for the doctors and one for the institution by itself. Whilst individual doctors registered with the IMC or the IMA or whatever it is can have an individual cover. If there is a failure in the hospital, for example, you would have come across cases where individual doctors hire the operation theaters in a hospital to conduct a procedure.
Yeah.
They are not really working at the hospital, but they engage or rent the operation theater in a hospital.
Okay.
And share the fees that they have discussed with the patients in the hospital as a rent, as a share. In such cases, if there is a failure, the doctor might have an individual liability, medical liability insurance. But the hospital is left open to any kind of a court case. Unless their medical policy is acknowledging that the hospital operation theaters are also rented out to professionals. If such a gap exists in the hospital insurance policy, they are they're open for a very large claim.
I see. Thank you, RPG. As our Professor Ramana raised the hand. Please go ahead, sir. You can open your camera if you wish. Krishna Swami Ramanathan, yes. Professor Ramana, sir, go ahead. You raised the hand. Yes, Mr. Ali Arshad, go ahead. Shali, you raised your hand.
I think they have to unmute and speak. Everybody is on
Yeah,
mute.
Yeah,
Good evening, Ashok sir, Bala sir, Jetu sir, and everybody.
Yes.
And I'm very fortunate because I just saw the message from Bala Sahab and I joined in. It was of some special interest because of some obvious reasons, hospitals.
Yes.
One issue, as you just mentioned, and the speaker sir said IMA and other things, hospitals and doctors. One of the point, since one of my daughter is pursuing MBBS, she has pursued, completed.
Okay.
But I guess after going through this session, I guess she doesn't know much about this HSE part.
Correct.
And when she will be joining after her intern, she might not be aware of HSE at all, whether in operation theater or in the clinic.
Yeah.
So as we did our engineering, during our engineering days, we were never really taught about HSC while mechanical engineering, machine designing, and strength of material and all these. So that was always a weak link. And we face it every day when engineers do not really pay much focus on HSC. The same way, I don't know how it would be possible that doctors should be aware of HSE part as they come out in the practical field. So how to go ahead and spread the awareness among the doctors, whether to put it in their curriculum through this wonderful organization, or what would be the means?
RPG, any
Yes.
Very good question. It's a very global question. Yes, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Ali, once again, a very lovely question. What we should understand that enterprises, hospitals cannot work in isolation. There is a lot of synergy between HSE, safety practices, HSE and safety practices versus vis-a-vis any enterprise. Therefore, we as J&A and as a member, we would be more than happy to speak to your own network of hospitals or network of colleagues and friends, where we would be more than happy to sensitize them on the requirement and the synergy between hospitals as well as HSE, and J&A being a leader in this, we would be more than happy to share this knowledge process, sharing the knowledge process across the industries, including hospitals, which you would like to speak. Because whilst on the World Health Safety Day, this event was organized, J&A as HSE, we will be able to address concerns across the board to any kind of industry. So we would encourage you to connect with more of your circle, invite us to make a presentation, talk to your colleagues and friends on to sensitize them on all these issues.
Thank you, RPG.
There is no separate isolation between HSE and risk transfer. They
Yes.
all go hand in hand. Each one supplements the other.
Thank you, RPG. I think you can also interact with Mr. Ali. Ali is a very renowned person in Kuwait in the HSE profession. Thank you, RPG. And Mr. Ali, I can connect with RPG for further interaction also. We have a question from Mr. Madhu Burraj.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, whatever you have told is correct, but at the same time, as you rightly said, the architects should definitely plan in a more better way, considering the safety aspects. failing which accidents can always happen. Second thing is patient safety is very, very important. Okay, whatever is the building, its structure, the fire protection systems and all installed, due importance is to be given to the patients. And right from starting from their rooms to the equipments and the overloading of the plugs and good training facilities. These are very, very critical for the staff to move the patients in case of emergency. Unfortunately, I am not aware whether all the hospitals have an understanding or an MOU in case of any emergency that the patients are to be shifted. So what type of accommodation they are going to give them, or the transfer facilities and all. And also the safety equipments required are all provided in the hospitals. Mostly due to wrong planning, what's happening is, the two-wheelers, four-wheelers and all the parking is coming where the movement of the patients in case of emergency is also becoming very critical. So the staircases, the ramps, also, not going by the mere law or the National Building Code in India, but to see that easy movement is made. That is very important, I feel, Secondly, nowadays lots of temporary contractors are being encouraged into the hospitals, and, training to those people is also very important, where apart from the staff, regular staff, these contractors who are coming and walking in and out and, meddling with the equipments there is also causing a lot of problems. So, all these aspects are to be taken, and the most important is now in the hospital should not just consider the doctors or the utility or the maintenance departments will handle. HSE should be a new role there, and they should also have a safety department where they take care. Failing which, the doctors are to be taught, as rightly said, on the safety aspects, as well as the below staff and good training, because there's always a change of staff at various levels regularly. So training only helps them, and they'll have to take care. This is what I feel.
Thank you, Madhuburaji. Thank you, Madhuburaji. Madhuburaji is our corporate engagement chair, in fact. So our foundation, we have one more hand raised from the Mr. Abdul Kaja. Please go ahead, Mr. Abdul. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello, good evening.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I am Abdul Khaja Pasha, student of Professor Ramna, sir.
Very good.
Actually, I am doing a project in health safety environment, which is regarding an emergency action plan for institutional building.
Excellent.
As we see, there are many fire accidents happening around in Hyderabad. Very recently, a hotel in Secunderabad caught fire due to negligence of fire safety norms, where more than 8 people died in the accidents.
Correct.
And they does not have any compliance with fire safety issues or emergency action plan in the hotel, basically.
True.
So my question is, why are they not making it mandatory to have fire safety issues or emergency action plans for high-rise buildings? And what measures can you suggest to overcome this problem?
Yes, RBG, your expertise.
Okay. Now, Abdul, the first problem is, when I mentioned in the very beginning, the moment the power goes out, we look at the neighbors' house, whether they have power or not. Number two, sensitizing people. The other example that I gave in the Bombay hospital, where there is a hospital running in a mall. Essentially, there is a much more that this country has to go forward on HSE.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things to be done, and possibly it becomes the responsibility of somebody like us in J&A to probably keep on preparing report after report and share it with the government and the powers that be. Small page reports, smaller reports saying hospitals, this is happening. Most important, the governments have to be sensitized, number one. Number two, enterprises have to sensitize themselves. Charity begins at home. You cannot permanently be a school teacher. People must learn that the HSE is a very critical area and what can happen to them if there is a breach of it. So the sensitivity is on the multi-side, not only the enterprise, not only the government, and the responsibility is on HSE professionals like us to keep on saying about this. I think Jitu Saab would be able to give some inputs on this.
We have 4 minutes left for the closure. We have 2 more questions to you, RPG. So,
Sir.
one is related to the paternity insurance coverage for the electric two-wheelers, which is asked by Professor Ramana. And most of the nationalized insurance are not prepared to underwrite insurance for electric two-wheelers. Can you please provide your comments on this point for those vehicle owners who wish to have the insurance coverage?
Now, there is one important clarification on that. Insurance companies, not all insurance companies or the executives of the insurance companies are knowledgeable. I mean, I'm in the industry, but it's a hard fact, reality. The mistake that happened is the government said electric two-wheelers don't need insurance. That's where they made a mistake. A very fundamental mistake made by the government and the authorities is that electric vehicles don't need an insurance. But what they have failed to realize is that there can be third-party claims even due to an electric vehicle. Therefore, the first thing is, in such cases, as an insurance professional, I would be willing to handle individual issues on that. Number two, Professor Ramana should insist on the insurance company to give him a third-party liability cover because that is where the risk is. What they feel there are 2 portions to expand a little further. Motor vehicle insurance, it be a two-wheeler comprises of 2 parts, the own damage and the third party. The electric vehicles that come today come with some battery which has got some key mechanism or key feature that unless you punch in those numbers, it cannot get charged. The battery won't charge or the vehicle will not start. Therefore, a complacency has set in that they don't need the own damage section. I have not gone through that, therefore I will not comment on it. But third-party insurance is must and compulsory, which he can insist. And if there are individual problems, I am willing to address them.
Yeah, we'll go to the next question, sir. Mr. Rajendra Reddy, please unmute and speak. Mr. Rajendra.
Good evening, sir. This is Rajendra Reddy. I'm a student of MARC in College of CSIT, India, and affiliated to JNFAU. And Mr. Professor Ramana is my thesis guide. And I have taken a safe wind speed in thesis, like safe wind speed in thesis. And my project site, my question is indirectly related to fire, like indirectly related to fire. And in construction where we lay roads like asphalt roads, bituminous roads, heating of bituminous boilers beside of roads. There will be a heating of boilers in bituminous roads beside roads.
Yeah.
There is a possibility of catching the fire for people who are standing near to the boilers in the direction of the wind. So like my question is, what are the limitations of the wind speed in which will limit people working near to the bituminous boilers? There is a possibility of catching fire for people. And when the wind velocity is high, what is the limiting speed and what is being followed globally? Like you are the global people. So I want to know as a student, like this kind of process and all.
Yes, Jitu Saab, any comments on that?
No, I don't have any comment to add to, but I do have one comment to share in relation to all the people who have been asking questions or making comments, like Mr. Ravi, Mr. our MB Guruji, and Professor Ramana and Rajendra ji. One thing I want to just connect to say that RPG did mention about medical errors. RPG did mention about importance of the communication Madhuji mentioned about the highlights that much needs to be done on patient safety. I just would like to share that every day, and I repeat, every day in the United States, it's not just only in India, even in the United States, 1,000 errors or mistakes are taking place in medical field. I'm talking throughout United States, and that results into the death of approximately 600 to 800 people die each day in the United States, costing money in the dollar value almost up the order 27 to 30 billion dollars. And these errors, you might be wondering, which I already talked and mentioned while I was touching base about patient safety, it is about the physicians or the nursing staff making errors related to missing allergy, drug allergies, wrong patient, wrong medicines, wrong dosage, wrong routine administration, drug-to-drug interaction, and also doctors' handwritings. So these are one side of the coin, and Madhuji mentioned about the fire and safety side of it, and most importantly, the communication is the vital thing to talk about. With that, I think I wanted to share that the medical errors take a lot of lives of the order, like I said, 300,000 people die each year in United States only. Nobody even has heard about it. So with that, I think, Ashokji, if you allow me.
Thank you. I have two questions to clarify.
Okay.
One, Mr. Rajender asked about the wind speed. Rajender ji, it depends on the site specific. For example, in oil and gas, more than 25 kilometers per hour, we take a lot of precautions. Sometimes we stop the operations also. So there is no hard and fast rule that we need to stop the, we need to have this much wind speed. So it all depends on the site conditions where you are doing the asphalt boiler, and probably we can take the control measures to shooting the site. So we need to know more information about that. So it cannot be a one hard and fast rule that yes, 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers, we cannot say that. So that's input on your question. RPG, one last question from Mr. Vijay Kumar, is a founding secretary of the ASSP India chapter. He says, what type of insurance plan where the doctor goes for performing the operation and fire or other type of accident occurs, how to protect self as well as the patient with respect to insurance? RPG?
Yeah. Two things in this. We will have to draw a distinction between the hospital as an institution and the doctor as a professional. I had mentioned it in a little different way a few minutes ago. I believe the doctors, through the Indian Medical Association or the whatever it is, they have an individual professional negligence insurance, which is, I think, 10 lakhs, 1 million INR, if my memory serves me right. So that is as far as the doctor in his individual capacity. And I think he is connecting it to the situation or a scenario where doctors rent a hospital operation theater to perform a procedure. My understanding is that, therefore, the doctor in his individual capacity is most likely to have some kind of an insurance cover for his professional negligence. Coming to the hospital is also supposed to have their own, not only a fire policy for the assets, but also again a liability policy for the hospital. So both these policies together should respond to the doctor in his individual capacity, the hospital for the loss of its property, and the liability policy for any potential claim that might arise from the patient who was undergoing the procedure. So this would have to be viewed, multiple policies will trigger, let me put it that way.
Thank you, RPG.
I hope it clarifies.
Yes, thank you very much. So with that, we'd like to thank RPG for his sharing his subject matter expertise, and I request Mr. Jeetu Saab for his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Ashok ji. In conclusion, we have put the infrastructure to create the next era of world-class health and safety leaders. The industrial fire and explosions, motor vehicle tragedies, illnesses due to poor health and hygiene that have taken lives of countless Indians or our Bharatiya Nagari will continue to occur if we do not urgently equip generations to come with the tools and education needed, like Mr. Ali pointed out, his own daughter reading for an MBBS, to implement the world's best safety practices on a global scale. Our foundation has the sole mission of creating a safe and efficient Bharat that advances the global field of occupational safety and health profession. As the technological revolution continues to advance the methods of production and operation in both industry and daily life, a new era of HSE professionals is pivotal to ensure that India is well equipped to handle the health and safety challenges those innovative technologies may pose. We must extend our humanity to fund the furthering of this field so that the next generation can extend humanity on protecting the people of India and globally. Our foundation plans to recognize individuals, as you rightly mentioned, Ashokji, organizations, corporations, and academic institutions that have made significant contributions to making a difference in advancing the field of HSE in India. Your monetary contribution is a true inspiration and is appreciated in preparing the next generation to effectively combat the problems that our tumultuous future holds. Donors will have the liberty to choose the name of the scholarship that their money is going towards. We greatly appreciate your time and commitment to creating the future of HSE in India that would be extended globally. With that, I would request Ashokji if you have any final comment, and then we can close the session.
Thank you, RPG. Thank you, Jeetu Saab, for your comments. And of course, as you see on the screen, together everyone achieves more. Would like to join with our efforts, and we have made the platform, and we'd like to perform on the platform along with you. Thank you all for your participation and support. As I announced in the beginning, we would like to have a group photo with the concluding before we conclude it. So I request everybody to open their microphone, cameras, and so that we can just take the group photo. Yes, very nice, very nice. So we would like to open others who can. Yes, Mr. Rajendra, and yep, anybody else?
Request everyone to open their cameras.
Yep.
Salman, Sanjay.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Devi Madhav, Bala.
Bala is excused actually, so that's fine, no problem. So we will like to take a screenshot, and thank you for joining. Now officially this meeting is closed, but if you'd like to have any